Hi, my name's Andrews. I've got ulcerative colitis, and we will fight this together.
This is episode 6. Welcome to CrohnsCast. In tonight's episode, I'm talking to the phenomenal Andrews. He's one of the first guys I ever followed on social media in relation to IBD. I'm really excited about this episode and actually having a chat with Ant. And as you'll see in the episode, he's a really funny guy, always dropping in a few one-liners here and there. He's got some really interesting points, so come and join me for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button 2019 style, and if you have any thoughts, just leave me a comment down below and I'm sure to be getting back to you. Let's get stuck in. Okay, Ant, so would you just like to introduce yourself to the people that are watching? Just like who you are.
Of course. So hi everyone, my name's Anthony Andrews, or you may know me as IBD Life. I've recently changed it over from IBD Fitness. I have suffered with, I've been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis for the last 10 years. And yeah, I've been trying to do quite a lot around IBD, Crohn's colitis education, if you will, and trying to just speak up for everyone that's been suffering with this illness. And fortunately, I've met my mate here, Johnny, and my Reed and other people through it. And now we're getting on to doing loads of podcasts and stuff like that again to raise awareness as much as we can. So couldn't be better, really. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, as I said to you before at the start of the interview, you were one of the first people that I specifically followed because of IBD. And it's one of the first people that I seen that was openly talking about it on social media, which was fantastic. And that's kind of inspired me to then start reaching out to people like yourself and just getting our stories out there.
Mate, it's the most bizarre thing in the world, because you get diagnosed with this condition and you feel very alone, very much like, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know who to talk to. And then through literally social media, you can connect with so many people who have gone through the same situation as yourself. And you can get great stories, tips, ideas, and you can make some really good friends as well. And you may not even actually meet each other quite a lot. You know, I've got a few people that I constantly talk to about their condition, stuff like this, yet, but I haven't met them in person. Yet we talk about IBD and various other bits and pieces constantly. So yeah, it's so good to have this outlet. So if anyone is listening to this and they are worried about, recently been diagnosed or they haven't got people to chat to, just speak to one of us and we'll happily give you a message when we can. So
yeah, definitely just slide it into the DMs and I'm definitely 100% getting back to you.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
So, yeah. Can you walk me through your life prior to diagnosis?
Sure. I mean, you said you've only got an hour. It might take longer than that. No, I'm joking. Prior to my diagnosis, I was at school. I'd literally just left sixth form to go to university. Very active rugby player, swimmer. Used to play water polo. Quite high levels like GB and stuff like that. Left to go to universities to study forensic science. Went to Canterbury in Kent, and everything was pretty normal, just like you'd expect any student to have. Turned up for Freshers Week. For all of you who don't know, for all of you who don't know who Freshers Week is, just imagine, I don't know, if you've seen Bad Neighbours recently, and they've got the frat fraternity next door and they're all partying away. It's pretty much that for an entire week, and then you go and do your lectures and stuff. And yeah, did that. Didn't feel great after it. And then I started to get like small symptoms of my condition. And initially I just thought it was down to drinking too much. Didn't drink for a while. Left it for a couple of weeks, couple of months. And yeah, it started to just get much worse from that point. It became, if a lot of you lot are listening to this and you're unsure about symptoms, it isn't just about having diarrhea. It's the cramping, the pain, nausea, the fatigue, and the mental stress that goes along with this condition as well. That all started to kick in quite early on, which isn't ideal when you're starting lectures. And I wasn't doing a course that was like, I've only got one lecture a week. I was doing literally 9 to 5.
Forensic science is a pretty big one.
Yeah, hey, it was tough. And then yeah, it started just to get to a point where, only so many times you can go to the pharmacy and ask for Imodium and nothing to work properly. So I asked to be referred to one of the internal sort of doctors at the university. And they were like, yeah, mate, everything looks fine. Just change your diet a little bit. It'll all be good. And then nothing worked. Nothing worked at all. It wasn't till Christmas time when I went home and I was with my family that I started to actually talk about this with my parents. Because, at the start, it is quite embarrassing. You're going to the toilet quite a lot. You do feel a little bit isolated, but I literally had to say to my parents, look, I'm going to the toilet loads. And I remember selling it to my mum and dad. My mum looked quite concerned. And my dad was like, yeah, mate, well, I go to the toilet 6 times a day. That's normal. And I was like, right, cheers, mate. So because I was still registered, well, that's it. normal for him. I was still registered at the doctor's surgery at home. So I went to speak to them and I spoke to one of my old doctors. I think his name is Dr. Bennett, I can't remember. And it literally, this is the part that's probably the most frustrating point with having colitis or Crohn's or anything related with IBD, is that the initial stages of diagnosis, so the tests you have to do, the blood test, the stool samples, there's nothing more awkward than walking into a doctor's surgery. They give you that little tube and a little bag, like, here you go, mate, pop it in that box,
especially when
give
you're
it to the lady at reception. I just found it hilarious. So I just walk up and be like, hello, mate, here's my poo, all the best, bye. But weeks and weeks and weeks of tests, celiac disease, have I got colon cancer, have I got this, have I got that? For it just to get to the end and the doctors to say, yeah, everything is fine. We don't know what it is, so I can't really help you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel your pain there. It took them a while to diagnose mine. A period of months. I think that's one of the perks within the military is we can get quite accelerated sort of healthcare access sometimes. But
yeah.
Initially they were like checking me out for piles and just random stuff. Like obviously they've got a rule, the medical world's got to rule out the most possible scenarios first, I guess. But yeah, it's so frustrating with those months that tick by and you're no better for it and they may be just giving you some iron tablets or something because you're
Yeah, literally. Iron tablets. I remember I went for a blood test once and the doctor was like, well, I've got some good news. You're not pregnant. And I was like, really, mate? Come on, man. Like, there's no time for rubbish jokes. Just tell me what's wrong. And he's like, mate, I can't. I literally don't know. Everything seems to be within a normal ranges. Like, well, what's a normal range? I was like, you've seen my samples, mate. That's not normal. Like, come on. It's not like I've been having some really spicy food every day. Like, this is constant. So yeah. So when you were doing stuff within the military and bits and pieces, did that affect your sort of working life like quite dramatically, or was it hard for you when you initially diagnosed?
So my initial diagnosis, it was quite hard. I hid quite a lot. I didn't want to face it because I think I was just scared of the military turning around and saying, well, mate, you're not suitable for a service life. So I was 17, 18 when I got diagnosed. 17, 18 when I started getting symptoms, and then 19 I was when I got diagnosed eventually. But it just started off similar to yourself, just like crampy, blood in your stool, things like that, and progressively getting worse. But yeah, it was like at one point before I was diagnosed, I was that anemic that I virtually couldn't stand up for any more than 15 minutes. I'd start fainting and things like that, which, as you can imagine, wasn't probably the best start to my career. But it was once I got diagnosed and once that sort of process of actually treating the disease had started, things became a lot better, to the point where people never knew that I had anything wrong up until virtually 2013, whenever I had that massive flare-up, which resulted in me then needing a J pouch. And there's basically no hiding it then, because I was in hospital for like a couple of months. It's one of those weird things. I think for me, I did spend a lot of time hiding the disease rather than trying to talk about it and thinking that it was a weakness and it was something that I should keep to myself. And it's only now with how much I interact with other people that have Crohn's, colitis, or IBD, how important it is not to be quiet about your
Yeah.
symptoms and things like that, because there's so much support out there. And my fears about the military were so unfounded. Like, they were very, very supportive and made sure that all of my welfare needs were met. You know, my boss at the time, I was based in and around London, and I'm Irish, if you can't tell by the accent. So they flew my family over.
No.
They flew my family over from Ireland so that they were in close support. They were listed as.
I take it they flew them over in like a Boeing 747, not a military plane, like strapped into the back of it.
Yeah. No, yeah, they flew them civvy air, yeah. So they probably wouldn't have got here if it was military air. But but yeah, so they flew them over, and yeah, I was amazed like at how much the machine worked in terms of looking after me at that point in my life, and just made me really think about the number of people that maybe are in the same position as I was in their careers and are having symptoms and not sure whether they should go to the doctor about it. And I can't stress enough that if you are having symptoms, irrespective of your profession, go and see that doctor, because it can take a while to get that diagnosis as well.
It can take months. And I think the other side of it is you've touched on, obviously, with yourself in the military, is people get so worried then about work and how that will affect them at work, time off, and fundamentally how much they're going to get in regards to pay if they're taking time off and they've got to support like a family, or like yourself, congratulations obviously to yourself. You haven't told many people about children and bits and pieces. If you then have to take time off work and you've got to look after children and other parents and families or whatever, that's going to be a huge impact on your life. So you still need to go and do it though. You still have to speak to these people, because you won't know the benefits that are out there. Just as you said, the machine worked perfectly when you actually are vocal about it and you tell people about it. So, but yeah.
And I think the scary thing is that actually undiagnosed, these diseases are very dangerous. Yeah,
massively. I mean, I don't know if this is a fatal condition or not. I mean, I've read stories obviously about some people have sadly lost loved ones to Crohn's and colitis, but I don't know if the complications of the medication or possibly surgery. But if you don't have it looked at, just like yourself, you were saying that you got to the stage where you're so anemic that you can't function, and if you're getting that ill, and then you're waiting to go and find a diagnosis, then you're only going to do worse for yourself in that sense.
Yeah.
So,
it's so dangerous. Like, the worst. Like you said, I don't know if the worst case scenario is as drastic as that's it, sayonara, but I know that there's a very high risk of perforating your bowel, and that's something that it's, if that happens, the recovery process of that is so drastic versus getting a diagnosis reasonably early and mitigating that with medication or surgery. And as well, if that perforates, it's an emergency surgical operation, which means that you just get sliced and diced straight down the middle. Whereas if you're ahead of time and you can electively do it, they can do laparoscopic, which is a lot less scar and a lot less harm to your abdomen and things like that. So the recovery rates are a lot better. Yeah,
which is what I'll have when I have my back in a couple of months' time. Which is the weird thing as well, because you get to plan, the rest of your IBD life, if you will. If you have to have emergency surgery, it's just sort of thrust on you. And I guess that in itself, when you've got to plan it, you can mentally prepare for it a bit better. And the aftermath of it, if you've had emergency surgery, it would kind of be like, well, this is it. Like, this is happening now, whether I like it or not. And that can have a huge sort of mental anguish or mental effect on people as well. So yeah, I mean, if you're worried about things now, you have to go and speak to people as soon as you can, because the longer it's like anything, the longer you leave it, the worse it will get, and your prognosis will diminish if you don't then try and sort things out as soon as you can. So,
yeah, totally. So you mentioned obviously you're choosing to have surgery now. Can you just explain, like, what's actually got you to this stage where you've decided that you think this is the best option for you personally?
Okay. So it's been a long road, like having this condition for 10 years. You know, I'm sure similar to yourself and similar to others that are probably listening or even watching this, you know, you'll get so many different variations of drugs that you'll be given to try. And then, you know, they start very low level, like Pentasa and Mesavance and things like that, Nizalazine drugs. And then they put you on things like azathioprines and then biologics. And they kind of go up and up and up in that sort of order. And obviously, the more drugs you take, you know, the worse it actually is for your sort of body, because you're throwing loads and loads of, immunosuppressants into your system that it won't actually be beneficial per se. It will give you a period of remission, and if you find that period of remission, then great. I have only really had a few years, maybe in that 10 years, of having complete remission, where I haven't had any symptoms or ever had to worry about anything. It's always been a juggling act between what dosages is to take, what, you know, I need to have in regards to, whatever medication they give me, and just trying to get that balancing act right. And it got to a point where, not last year, the year before, I was in hospital and they were giving me cyclosporin, and I think then
I did not like cyclosporin.
Honestly, I hated it, and that was one of the reasons why I was like, well, actually, I don't know if I want to have this. Like, I've never felt so washed out and destroyed by a drug. It was horrendous. Yeah. And even they were saying at the time, we need to monitor your kidney function. So I was having to go to hospital once a week to monitor my kidney function.
It's scary. It was scary.
It is. It really is. And it's like, well, this drug's supposed to help me, but this is making me worse if you're worried about my kidney function. And it got to a point where they were happy initially with the results, and then they dropped my sort of checkups to once a month. And then they said, we're actually really concerned that, you know, your kidneys might fail if we keep you on this drug, so we'll have to take you off it. And then it became a point of, well, if I have colitis, it's contained in my colon. Why don't I just take my colon out? Then I don't have the condition anymore. And then it just sort of started with a lot of conversations with, you know, my consultants and things, saying, you know, what is the best option? And my consultants have been brilliant, because they've just gone, well, you're in the driving seat, you tell us. Even before I went on cyclosporin, they were like, we can cut it out now if you want. And I was like, well, I don't really understand. They're saying, so because it's in your colon, if we cut your colon out, you'll be free of your condition. Yes, you'll have to have a bag, or an ileostomy, whatever you choose. A J pouch, but you won't have your condition anymore. And at the time, I wasn't mentally prepared to go, yes, I'll have surgery. I thought I'd give it one more sort of go, if you will, with having my sort of drugs and stuff, just to see if I could get that period of remission. And then they took me off cyclosporin, they put me back on azathioprine, and were like, we'll try some other biologics. I can't remember the names for the life of me, but I remember having a couple of infusions, and just, this will sound quite horrible, but it made me feel like I was sitting, well, you go in infusion areas, and I was like, I don't want to come and sit here, you know, once every 8 weeks.
Yeah.
This is mentally affecting me, because, you know, where I went, I was sharing wards with sort of chemotherapy patients and stuff like that, and I was empathizing with these people. And I was like, I don't want to keep having to come here every 8 weeks and stuff like this. If I can take this out and not have to be on these heavy drugs. I was on methotrexate, which is an anti-cancer drug. And I was like, this is so heavy duty.
Yeah.
I don't need this. If I can get it cut out, I'll get it cut out. So went and spoke to them this time last year. And they said, okay, cool, well, we'll work towards surgery then. It's just been a very, very long time in the making. And just having constant ups and downs, flare-ups and stuff like that. You know, so that's how I got to the point of surgery. Get it cut out. I don't have to take any more, you know, really heavy-duty medication. And then hopefully my quality of life will improve. So,
and I think it's great that that's an option that exists for us. Once we've gone through those sort of processes of look, this isn't working for me, or it isn't working medically. For some of the viewers, I think we both understand that having a colonoscopy, having a subcolectomy or a total colectomy, we understand that that's not a cure for ulcerative colitis, but it can improve your quality of life. It can improve your quality of life tenfold. We understand it's not a cure, and we're disappointed that there doesn't yet have a cure out there in the world that exists. Yeah. But from a pure quality of life standpoint, it is such a lifesaver.
Because if I had Crohn's, I don't think I would have an operation. I don't think, only because I have a friend who has Crohn's. One of the girls that I was talking about on my last podcast I did, a girl called Hayley, she had a bag, but she was still heavily affected by her Crohn's. So, you know, it was affecting her esophagus, her joints, like she's got arthritis and stuff like that now. So I guess in a sense, having colitis is possibly the lesser of the two evils, if you want to put it that way around, because you have to have, you have your colon removed and then your symptoms are alleviated quite heavily. But as you said, it's not a cure. Like a cure would be, you don't have to have any major surgery.
Yeah.
You know, if anyone is listening to this and they have Crohn's and stuff like that, you have to, or colitis in fact, you have to work out what's best for you. Exhaust all options if you can. You know, try different types of medication, try what you can do, change your diet, you know, do what you need to do for you. And then you have to come to that level of realization. If surgery is then presented with itself and you think this is going to be the best thing for my quality of life, then do it. You know, I know there's so many people that I speak to that are adamant they will never have surgery. And then a couple of months later, their drugs aren't working and they're having emergency surgery. And they're then saying off the back of it, I wish I'd done it sooner. So there's pros and cons to all of this. You know, I'm fully aware that having surgery, just like yourself, when we were talking at the start of this, there will be negatives. There will be negative days, like anything, but you have to weigh up those pros and cons and say what's going to be best for you at the end of it. So
what are you looking most forward to after the surgery?
I was having a chat with my girlfriend about this last night. I'm looking forward to her bringing me a coffee. No, for me personally, it will be not having the sense of anxiety, if you will, or that anxiousness when you eat something and then you get up, you walk around, or I'm at work or whatever, and that urgency to have to run off to go to the toilet, having that removed from my life will be amazing. I still haven't got my head around the fact that if I take my colon out and I have a bag, I won't really use, you know, my bum at all. Yeah. They were like, we can give you a Barbie bum if you want. And I was like, what? Yeah, we'll sew it all up. So nothing will come out of that ever. And they're like, yeah, it'll all come in and be collected in the bag. So to have that prospect of not, you know, I'm sure loads of you that are listening to us, even yourself, Johnny, when you've gone, I've got to run, I've got to go. Not having that anymore would be bliss, absolute bliss. And then I guess the other side of it would be all the foods that you had to restrict yourself from prior to, you know, having, you know, this sort of surgery or whatever, then can slowly become available for you again. So, you know, I can't wait to have a really spicy curry, if I'm honest, or something like that. Or go out and go drinking or something where I know if I eat it, the next day I'm not going to have the same problems like I had before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you had yours, what was the thing that you looked forward to the most after?
I think at the time I was that sick. I was just overjoyed to feel like I had a life back. Because I'd spent a month essentially, you know, and you'll, I'm sure a lot of people watching this and yourself will have a lot of empathy, because most people on the wards that we end up on tend to be geriatric.
Yeah.
And I'd spent a month, and the ward I was on, all the gentlemen there were lovely. And, you know, I learned how to play chess. I learned how to play backgammon. and all these crazy little things. It was like walking back into like 1950s England. But it was just spending a month just feeling like I was deteriorating, and I was on constantly on drips, being just prodded and poked and just not getting any better. And just basically, as each day went on, I spent longer on the toilet. And yeah, I think by the end of that, the sheer fact that I was leaving hospital was almost the biggest reward that existed in my life. But yeah, it's certainly eating a lot of foods that I previously couldn't have ate. It was strange as well, like consuming alcohol. I definitely stepped into the social aspect of the military quite heavily when I left. When I left hospital and I was back on my feet, and that was interesting because I had a total colectomy, so I had it taken right the way up to the base to the ileum, which is the base of your small intestine. So consuming alcohol didn't really touch me. It was kind of just throwing money down the toilet, so to speak. But
one of a better pun.
Yeah, it was cool because before I had it, all these things had massive implications over and above the overindulgence that would have had a normal person, and all I had to deal with then was just a hangover rather than all the other stuff that tends to come with having UC. So yeah, the whole experience, I think, after my surgery, I found to be really enjoyable. It sounds weird, and I don't know how many people can relate to it, but I thought everything that I was doing that was almost like a new life experience. It was almost like I was living it again for the first time.
Yeah, and I think that in itself, like if you are like maybe in Johnny's position or you're thinking about surgery like myself, like that must give you some sense of hope that, you know, to find those things that you couldn't do before that you can do now, and you're like, actually, this is amazing. Well, other than ending up with a hangover, but you know, having those experiences again for a positive, if you will, and doing it for something that's going to be so good that, you know, I'm all for it. I can't wait to go out drinking, get smashed, and then turn up with a hangover. But it will be the point of, as you said, having that social side of it, and even when you're not a night out. I don't know about any of you that watch this, guys in particular. If you go to a gents' toilet in a club, and you,
I'm back there now with a J pouch, and it's like that's one of my least favorite things when I go out socially. Like I don't necessarily go as often, so it's quite controlled. But when you do go, I'm like, God, can I get in a VIP toilet? Can I just go?
Yeah, literally the amount of times I've had to like walk around with security staff and ask, can I please use your disabled toilet? Here's my radar key, here's my Crohn's and Colitis card, and you know, here's this. I can't go in the gents. You can come with me. I'm not going to sit and do drugs and stuff like this. But this is one of the reasons why, you know, I'm trying, and as a youth, trying so hard to get out there and do as much as we can, just purely because, you know, you shouldn't be restricted to not being able to use a disabled toilet. You know, I've been in clubs in London and even bars and pubs. I'm not going to name a chain, but you know, there's such a stigma around it because they initially think, well, the only reason you're going in there is so you can, you know, go and do drugs or you can do X, Y, and Z, and that really isn't the case. And it's because people are ignorant to it. I think it was Amber who, I might be wrong, but it was initially with Wetherspoons. They had that scandal, and then it was reported in the Metro. The fact that someone's had to go through that and to have that experience to promote change, I think personally is awful. You know, yes, they now have the correct outcome, but someone shouldn't have had to go through that entire embarrassment. So I think it was, well, it may be Amber, it was definitely a girl and her boyfriend, and both of them were having to go into the toilet. I think one of them even showed them all of the, you know, the stuff for their sort of ostomy bags and all those bits and pieces. Be like, no, this is what I've got. That I need their assistance to help me change it and stuff like this, and they wouldn't let me do it. I think personally it was awful. So, you know.
And again, it comes
You,
back to that invisible illness thing. I think
yeah.
as a society, we've become very fixed on needing to see a visible disability. And I think I picked up on it, slight sidebar to IBD, but whenever I worked at the Defence Medical Rehab Centre, we would be invited quite regularly to social events. Basically, we would go as carers, for want of a better word, for the patients, just in case they come into difficulties, that there's someone who's medical staff there that can deal with them, or that they know that can give them support. And I remember on several occasions organizations that had invited us out being disappointed at the number of amputees that we didn't have with us. So they were sometimes asking, could we have an amputee, or could we have someone in a wheelchair? And you're like going, well, these guys may not have a visible battle injury, but they are, they've had significant trauma. And it's just really interesting. And I think the Crohn's and Colitis UK drive for the invisible illness and It Takes Guts campaign have all gone so massively well in driving that awareness. One of the early adopters, and I think they were doing this before the campaign started, was Wembley, not arena, but the Wembley Stadium. I don't know if it's got a specific name, but I remember going there in 2013 for the FA Cup final. I think it was might have been 2014 for the FA Cup final, and we were in tickets for troops, so that was another amazing experience. And I had an ileostomy at the time, so I had a bag, and they were really, really helpful. I had a member of staff who was at the doors to the actual seating area of the stadium. So I came up the steps and approached him, and he took me to the disabled. It was literally 15 steps from the door, but he literally took me when I showed him my radar key and said, "This is where you need to go," and walked me to the door. I made sure that was all right, and showed me the inside of the toilet to make sure I was happy with the inside of the toilet and how things worked, and then left me to it. And I was just like, and I've never had an experience like that since. But I was like, if you're going to go and do something, that's how to go and do it and make a name for yourself.
Yeah. No, well, hey, fair play to them for doing that for you. That's so good. So, have you ever, obviously being in the military and stuff, and having to fly and stuff, what's it like when you've had a bag and you've had to, say, maybe fly abroad or fly overseas or backwards and forwards around to various air bases and stuff? What's it been like for you when you've done that? Because I'm intrigued to see what it's like to go through security. If you've got a bag, are they like, "Sorry, sir, there's something in this area," and you just lift your shirt up and go, "Yeah, mate, it's a bag. Can you see it?" Or people quite polite or awkward?
It can be as awkward as you want to make it, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, generally speaking, everything traveling wise, it's been 100% fine. I've never experienced any problems. Occasionally, depending on what you've consumed in the past 24 hours. So try and stay away from gassy stuff before you fly, because as you know, like any trapped air then expands as you go up in altitude. And it's an easy fix around it, but sometimes if you've had a can of Coke or whatever, it's gassy enough as it is, and your bag can really pump out, like looking like a life vest as you go up. But like those sort of things are easy fixes. But yeah, travel, I never really had any problems with. There was a couple of occasions early on where how it was affixed to the skin wasn't great, and like a couple of very, very minor sort of leaks. But by the by, I'd never encountered any real problems traveling. Getting through security is fine. Doing pretty much all of the things that you'd be required to do in the military, although I didn't have to do them, like wear body armor or get into firing positions as in real time in training spaces. I was able to do that and demonstrate that I could do it. So you really, there's very few limitations when you do have it. I think a lot of it is more you as an individual being prepared to go and experience it.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I don't know if I will be able to, and hopefully there's people out there will be able to tell me about it, but I'm an avid rugby player and massive rugby fan. So obviously England are now to the World Cup final. I'm not being able to play rugby because of having a bag has been difficult to sort of digest, again, want of a better word. But it's, I don't, unless there are individuals out there that have got a ostomy bag and etc., and they can actually play rugby with the bag, and then please let me know, because I want to carry on playing. But it'll be a tough pill to swallow, not being able to play rugby again.
I think I know someone in Ireland.
Okay.
Like through a friend. I think one of my friends in Ireland has a work colleague who plays rugby with an ostomy. I'm gonna hit him up, and then I'll see if I can get an answer on that. But
I want to know if it's full contact, because if it's full contact, have you got to wear a belt, and is it likely that it will cause ruptures internally, externally with bags?
Yeah. So, that's what I don't know if he's playing full contact or tag rugby or something. But yeah, it's that is one of the downsides. But I don't know if you've seen recently, 6 months ago, the police officer who I can't remember what he was doing, but essentially he's got a stoma armor bag thing, and he's out and about on the beat. I think he might be an armed response police officer. I'm not sure. But I remember 6 months ago, he was on social media. I think he might have made an arrest or done something significant within the police world. And then obviously transpired that he had an ostomy, and he was talking about the ostomy armor belt and how that was enabling him to wear body armor and things like that.
Oh, so I used to be in the police, and when I was in it, I found that they were mildly supportive. But again, a bit like you, it was kind of like, well, are you going to be fit enough to do the job? Because if you're not going to be fit enough to do it, you may then not be able to actually do the job. And I spoke with them briefly about it, and they were kind of like, well, if you're it's really, really struggling and you're unfit to do the job, then they may turn around at one point and say, well, you can't be a police officer because you have to run around. So if you can't physically do that, it'd be difficult for you. So, but fortunately, I left actually before it ever got to that stage. So for other reasons as well. But it's interesting that you've obviously been in the military and stuff, and being in the police, the sort of comparisons that you can draw between being in those sorts of services and then what it's like to be in the private sector at the moment. So
I think for my military career, one of the fortunate things for me was that I was a senior NCO, so I was already sort of mid-management, for want of a better word. So my career prospects were different to that of someone who was a junior NCO or a private, and also as well, I'd moved into sort of the rehabilitation and medical world, so there was less of a requirement for me to be frontline deployable, to go out to places like Afghanistan and pick up a weapon and start fighting the Queen's enemies. So like that was a big discussion with my occupational health. So my rank and trade at that time were big factors in them being able to retain me. Had I been a corporal and been in the parachute regiment, then they wouldn't have been able to retain me. They may have been able to offer me a different trade if I was willing to accept that, but they wouldn't be able to retain me as a corporal in the infantry because of the necessities to deploy and the certain aspects within that. And it's more not that you couldn't demonstrate that you're able to do those things, it's more the risk of flares or the need for access to medical care that may not be available.
Well, this harks back to the point that you were saying earlier. If you are in these positions and you haven't spoken to somebody yet, you have to go and speak to them. So go and do it before things get, to a stage where you aren't going to be able to be deployed or be able to work.
Definitely. And then if they deem that your career is not suitable or they're not supportive, do you want to be there anyway?
Yeah, quite. That's it. And I think that was a precursor for my decisions to leave the police, because I did forensic science at university, and it was like, you need to go get evidence to show that you can be a forensic scientist. Spoke with various people, and they're like, go and join the police. Try to do it through forensic service. If not, why don't you just go be on the beat? And from there, it was like, I didn't really have my heart set on that as a career, but I thought I'll give it a go. And then when we were talking about, going through medicals and stuff like this, and having various conversations with various individuals, they were saying, well, fundamentally, you may be, let go, for want of a better word, but you'll find that, you may have to be put somewhere else. And I wouldn't say they weren't funny about it, but they were very black and white, saying, if you're not fit to do it, then that'll be the end of the road. And it was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to be supported in that sort of sense, then maybe I shouldn't be doing this as a career option. And then various other reasons for me wanting to leave sort of arose and stuff like that. And I said, well, you know what, I'll find a different career. And where I work at the moment, they couldn't be more supportive. It's the complete reverse. So, my bosses have been like, if you need time, just do what you need to do. Like, it's down to you. If you can't come in today, that's fine. We'll do what we can do to help you out. They're incredibly supportive around, my need of surgery. Like, my boss is literally always talking to me like, so how's the prep going? Have you got your date yet? And stuff like this. So it's been a completely different end of the spectrum for what I was experiencing. So,
and it's just so much more positive for you. Do you know what I mean? It makes you, I feel, when you experience that support from your employer, it makes you that much more willing to give more to them.
Yeah, 100%. And it depends what you want from work. If you just want to go to work, pay the bills, and go home, and you think you're working for a major conglomerate like Sainsbury's or whatever, still go and talk to them about it. If you're it's definitely if you're self-employed, but if you work for a small business, speak to these individuals, because they will try and do whatever they can to help you. Because it was only when I was in the police, I was told, it was sort of definitely stated that you're disabled. I was like, I didn't actually know that. I just thought I had a condition and that'd be it. But we're classed as disabled. And it's only when you sort of then realise that, in sort of especially employment terms, that, they need to do what they can to help you because of that. So, but yeah.
So what has IBD taught you about yourself?
What a question. Big question. Do you know what? It's taught me several things. To be hugely mentally resilient, and put a positive spin on everything. Because what this condition does, I'm sure, as you know, and sure as others listening to this will know, is that you'll go through so many ups and downs that when you're having the good times, you need to really seize those good times. When you're having bad times, you need to remember that it's not always going to be bad. It isn't going to be the end of the road in a sense. Things will get better. It's just very difficult to see that whilst you're going through it, because you have your blinkers on, and just like yourself, mate, when you've been sort of doubled over in pain, you're going, this is the worst thing ever. But it's a temporary process. It's temporary, and things will slowly get better should you get the right advice and medical assistance, etc. It's taught me to be a lot more empathetic to others, and to obviously not judge a book by its cover. Being quite young, sort of young adult, and having this condition, you don't really realise the sort of experiences that this condition will teach you and the life lessons it gives you. Because everybody, and again, you don't realise this, everybody's dealing with their own shit. And quite honestly, you don't see it. Well, yeah, quite. But you don't see it, like mentally, physically, invisible, whatever. Everyone's dealing with something. And it's only when you then start to talk about it do you realise that you're not the only person, suffering with these conditions and stuff like this. So you can't look at someone, for example, and be like, oh, they're always so upset, they're always doing this, God, they're so annoying. It's like, but have you actually taken the time to confront them about it and actually be like, so what's actually going on? You know, you can't judge that person because you don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess as well, it's taught me that everything you do in your life, as bizarre as this might be, is everything happens for a reason. You know, having this condition, when you're first diagnosed, you might be like, why on earth have I got this? This is awful. It's not designed as a test or anything like that, but you know, I'm so grateful in a weird way to have this condition, because I've been able to meet people like yourself, Johnny, and you know, do podcasts and try and turn something that seems so bleak into a positive outcome, and make people aware of this condition, and how, you know, yes, it might be difficult, but it makes me unique. It's my unique selling point that, you know, I run off and have to go for a shit every now and again. It's great. So it's a talking point. It's an icebreaker, but you know, it gives you for me personally, it's given me that sense of, you know, you can go and make a difference, which you wouldn't think is possible having a condition like this. So, you know, it's like anything. If you can put a positive spin on it, the better it will be for you. You know, so what has it taught you, actually, more importantly, as you are my host?
It's taught me to try and think about myself a little bit more. It sounds a bit very pretentious, but I think one of the things it's taught me is to think about self-care. And it's a really great analogy was given to me about thinking about myself as a bucket. And if my bucket's full, then I've got water to give. If my bucket isn't full, then I've got nothing to give. And the self-care element being the water in the bucket. I was trying to make sure that my bucket is full of water. And as long as my bucket's full, then I've got the capacity to give to others. And it's quite a difficult thing, because again, I think we talked about it just before we started the interview, is I try to do everything, and it annoys me whenever I can't do everything. And sometimes I blame the disease for that. Other times I need to actually be a bit realistic and probably say most people probably couldn't do this level of stuff. So yeah, it's just having that understanding of myself and where I need to back off and think about self-care, or where it might be all right and just push through, just learning my self-limitations.
Yeah, I mean, even with self-care, again, I think that there may be various people listening to this that may have friends or family members that are annoyed by the fact that you may be cancelling events or saying, I'm not well enough to come today and stuff like this. You shouldn't worry about what they think or what they're saying. It's, you know, as you said rightly, you have to take care of yourself first. If that means you can't go to a party, you can't go to a party. Like, don't be worried about it. If you've got a good support network around you, and you've got those friends and family members that are that caring, they know that, okay, cool, you're not well enough today, we'll do something else another time. So, and I'll be honest, I'm very fortunate with that. And I recently went to Berlin with my mates for my 30th, and I really wasn't well. I was really ill for my 30th, and they were all going out until about 5 a.m. I was getting to about midnight and going, guys, I can't, I'm going to go to bed. I have to go to bed, otherwise it's just going to be an awful night. But all of them were like, yeah, mate, as long as you're fine, then, you know, do what you need to do. And that's the thing. People they won't care. You don't worry what they're thinking. You have to worry about yourself and taking care of yourself, as you rightly said. So, you know.
I think another great thing, my wife will love this because it's straight out of celebrity gossip. I can't remember the name of the celebrity, but I think it was Cher, on the Graham Norton show, was talking about how she deals with life being hectic and worrying about things. And apparently her mother told her that if it doesn't matter in 5 years, then it doesn't matter. Yeah. And it's sort of like the concept of not being able to make a party probably isn't going to matter in 5 years. So should it matter now?
Exactly. So, and if you've got friends that are so het up about things like that, do you really need them in your life? Because if they're not looking out for you in the way they should be, then are they really your friend? You know, and it's, you know, this disease teaches you a lot about who you can rely on, who will be there through the tough times, and who's going to be there through the good times. So, if people can't handle you when you're at your worst, then they don't deserve to necessarily be around you when you're running around and being the life and soul of the party, if you will. So, so that's
Totally.
That's how it works.
I know you've recently changed your channel name from IBD Fit to IBD Life, but within the sort of fitness world, what got you into the fitness sort of industry, if you will, and doing things like that?
I'll be honest. When I was in the police. When I left the police, being on a police sort of diet, if you will, is grab whatever you can at any time of day. So most police officers will have Nando's or Domino's because you get your discounts and stuff like that. You do very unhealthy hours, so your body clock's kind of all over the place. When I left, I was like, I'm not happy with how I look at the moment. I'm not happy with how I am in regards to my condition. Maybe if I start experimenting with going to the gym and doing things like that, it might have a positive gain. And I followed a couple of people like Zoe Wright Fitness, who's on loads of amazing stuff recently with USN and things. I thought, well, there's loads of girls doing this. There's no guys doing it. There's no guys openly talking about this condition and going to the gym. So I thought, well, why not just start to go and do that? And that was literally it. It just started overnight and slowly flourished. And yeah, I get loads of people talking to me about my gym routines and my fitness stuff and stuff like that. But it was more, it was very heavily fitness based. But I've changed it recently to IBD Life because I want to encapsulate more around everything in regards just to life and make it more of an open channel or forum, if you will. I'm massively into cooking, and I think even the foods that you are restricted to, you can still make absolutely delicious meals with it. So I want to incorporate a lot like that into it, and even do a bit of yourself, like maybe even start doing various podcasts and just have topics that people can openly talk about and openly discuss. So again, the more we can do to talk about things and show people that having a disability isn't the end of everything, and you can prove everybody wrong, was a huge motivation for me to get initially into the fitness side, but then hopefully it'll inspire others to do so as well. So yeah, that was.
What advice would you give to someone with IBD or chronic disease and looking at fitness and active living and any sort of barriers that they might sort of see with making changes there?
The best advice I would give is you have to listen to your body and you have to understand your body before you go and do things. Don't sign up for a marathon if you're in a flare, for example. You need to get to a stage where you understand that your limitations, which is really difficult because so many people are tempted, I'll just go to the gym, I'll get up early, I'll run around, I'll watch a video of someone doing, 100 kg deadlift or squat or whatever. And, what your body will teach you quite quickly is whether it can and can't do that. And your recovery times to any sort of exercise are usually a lot longer than others. And you have to be very mindful of what you eat prior to going to the gym or exercising and stuff like that. And if you do too much, you will run yourself into the ground, like physically exhaust yourself. So you have to really take it step by step and not be affected by other people and what they're doing, especially in the fitness arena, because it's a huge thing on Instagram. Everyone's like, yeah, go to the gym and follow this Instagram influencer, whoever who works with Gymshark or whatever, and you want to look like them. You can do, providing if that's your goal, but you have to really take your time with it. Nothing is a quick fix. You see people advertise 8-week summer transformation programs. And if you're really realistic anyway and say, look, with your condition, it may take even longer. And you need to set out the goals you want to achieve. So let's say, for example, you wanted to run the marathon. Okay, cool. That's your end goal. You need to break it down into little steps, and every little step needs to be an easy win for you. So if currently you're like, I can hardly run a mile, then, well, practice running small distances. And that will teach you a lot about your body, especially with your condition. For me, I love running, but I know I literally went for a run this morning with my girlfriend and her family and stuff. Every time I get to kilometre 3, my stomach starts to literally grumble, and it's like, right, I need to find somewhere in the next 5 kilometres or so, or it's not going to end well. So normally I'll run about 5-6k, I'll stop, and then I'll go again, and I can do another 5k. So through a lot of experimentation and a lot of sort of setting small goals, you can work out what you can and can't do, and then you can just slowly build onto what you want to achieve. So
yeah, I think that's a great way of managing it as well.
It's interesting, and the other side of it as well is, don't be annoyed if you can't do what you set out to do. Like, I don't speak about it enough, but the last few weeks my condition has not been great at all, and I've hardly gone to the gym. I've hardly done it. And normally everyone's like, oh, I see you in the gym, you're doing this, you're doing well. Don't be annoyed if you can't go. If you can't go, you can't go. The gym will always be there. Your friends who you meet at the gym or whatever, they'll always be there. You just have to make sure you look after yourself. So, that point again about self-care, that you have to take that into account when you set out with anything like this. So.
You mentioned you've had a few weeks now of a bit difficult sort of periods. What inspires you, or what helps pull you through those times? Like on the difficult, painful days, how do you get through those?
Oh, what a question. For me, I know it's not going to be forever. It's a temporary thing. Even when I was, I didn't even think about the prospect of surgery and stuff like this. I know it's just a small part of my life at that stage. So it's very, very difficult to look at things and have perspective when, maybe you haven't had that level of perspective before, or you haven't had those life lessons to sort of say, this small part of you being ill today, it may not be the same tomorrow. Last night, for example, I was in loads of pain, loads of pain. And woke up this morning, felt great. Right, I feel great. Let's go and do it. Let's run around. Let's do what I want to do, because, I may not get this opportunity again in a couple of hours if I start to feel quite painful again, stuff like this. So, and when you're having down days, the thing that will get me through the most is having a look at people on Instagram. So looking at other people, doing what they've set out to achieve, talking to people as well. So I'll openly talk about, with my family, friends and loved ones and stuff. So I'm really not feeling great.
Mm-hmm.
And then at least then you can get that off your chest if you need to. But it's mainly that, a lot of it is just a very, very temporary phase, and things will get better. But you have to go and make it better at times as well. So if you're really, really ill, you have to go to the doctor when you can. You have to go to a hospital appointment when you can. And, don't be afraid of just turning up at A&E if you're really, really that bad. So you can be seen to and you can be done. But, most of it is literally just, I will have a small point and then I'll be back to normal shortly.
Who's your feel good Instagram person you follow?
Oh, do you know what? There are so many people that I follow that give me inspiration. I can't really put it down to one. Most of my Instagram is filled with food, rugby, dogs anyway. The people that I see the most and I aspire to sort of be with Instagram, if you will, people like there's a girl called Bryony Hopkins. I've met up with her before and done some great work in regards to her IBD. One of my friends, obviously Moeed, who I did my Instagram podcast with the other week. Billy Anderson, another one of my mates, who's doing so well. There's another woman who I think she's a model. I think her name's Zana Phillips or something like that. Who's currently doing active swimwear and stuff like that. She did a model shoot with Billy Anderson, and they were both, talking about IBD and stuff like that. So, the goal for me is to get to a level where maybe I'm not an influencer or something along those lines, but to have a substantial esque following, or be appeared to be seen to be talking about things like, I don't know if you guys watched The Circle, but one of the girls that was in it, Georgia, I think that's her name, sorry, I said it wrong, or Georgina, she was talking about having Crohn's and colitis, and the fact that she was on national telly, has completely opened up the world to suffering with this condition. So anything along those lines that you can create that positive outlook on other people's lives is the end goal. So and those are some examples for me that are sort of aspirational targets, and people I look to when I'm necessarily not feeling that great, or just dogs.
Everyone loves a dog and a cat video.
Exactly, dog and cat videos, man. Like, there's dogs and cats that have got millions of followers. Yeah. I just don't get that. Because everybody loves looking at cats and dogs. Yeah. Everyone loves it.
So do you have a Flair movie or a Flair TV show that you like to watch?
It's whatever comes on that I'm currently watching. I've recently worked through Suits, Line of Duty was on recently, watching
That's really
Peaky
good.
Blinders. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. But I don't know, when I'm having a flare, it's rare that I'll stay in. I think this is what's probably my problem, is because I flare so much, I still go to work. Because when I'm sitting on my sofa and I'm watching a movie or I'm listening to music or a podcast or something, I get bored, and I go, well, I could be sitting at work, and at least I can run backwards and forwards to the disabled toilet if needed. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's more series based, like Peaky Blinders and things like that. Watched The Bodyguard as well a couple of weeks ago again, which is awesome. And yeah, just stuff like that really. I watch House of Rugby quite a lot, which they do with James Haskell, Mike Tyndall,
nice.
And Alex Payne, and they just talk about everything rugby and social media and stuff like that. And it's absolutely hilarious. So mainly things like that, to be honest, mate. Like it's whatever makes me feel good, I guess, if I need to feel good. But yeah. What about yourself? What are your ones?
So my go-to movie is Hot Rod. That's my ultimate feel-good movie.
I haven't seen it. I need to watch it.
It's got the guy, what do you call it? Something 99. What's the thingy 99? Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So it's got like a number of the cast out of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It goes way back. It's like a 2008 or something movie, but it's just hilarious. It's just one of those slapsticks.
You've touched on the series that I've watched at least 3 times now. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think that's hilarious, especially when I'm not feeling well. That is so funny to watch.
Yeah, it's in the same vein as that. So your channel's got a slight focus on mental health. What do you feel is most important with that for you? Also, what sort of message are you hoping that your subscribers can pick up on?
For me personally, it's only, again, having this condition, it teaches you a lot about your emotions and how to deal with, how you're currently feeling, and not actually be afraid to talk to people about your conditions, especially with your mental health. This condition has taught me not just your physical health is important, but your mental health. If you're feeling slightly anxious or slightly depressed or even down about your condition and stuff, if you've got a support network, go and speak to those individuals. If you're, for example, you're searching for people to talk to and you're listening to this podcast, come and speak to myself. I'm sure Johnny won't mind speaking to you as well, because having your mental health is your mental wealth. So the more positive you are with your mindset, the better you will start feeling about certain things. And especially with this condition, you have to make sure what you're doing for you, so that element of self-care again, is right for your mental health as well. I do quite a lot of work with emotional intelligence and suicide and prevention and various other bits and pieces like that. So unfortunately, I hope no one has had come to that stage, but if you're really suffering with your mental health because of this condition and you're contemplating taking your own life, like, there are so many support groups out there and support networks that you can reach out to, because this is a mentally draining condition. It really, really is. So you need to have that network. I think really as a message is whoever, you just have to go and talk about how you're feeling to people, and not be ashamed or afraid of how you are feeling, because people won't judge you and people won't care. If people do judge you, then are they the right people to have in your life? Like, again, going back to what we were saying earlier about cancelling parties and friends like this, if you're able to talk to somebody about how you're feeling, that will have a huge impact on your mental health, like massively. You'll feel so much better getting that weight off your chest, if you will, or the stress and strain off your shoulders. Having someone just to offload to occasionally is a huge thing. And I've had a lot of people speak to me about it on here, and it's quite kind and quite nice that people actually look to confide in me, a complete stranger sitting in his housemate's room talking about shit half the time. People actually wanted to talk to me about it. So if there is that out there, then go and find it. So I think that's the main message, is we just need to talk more and more about it, and in general talk about mental health much more, because again, the more we can talk about it, the more that we can implement change. So that's about it really, matey.
Yeah, definitely. So we've reached the part of the show that I call the 3 truths. I kind of stole it from a podcast that I listen to quite frequently, but it's your last day on earth many years from now.
Okay, sounds ominous.
All the work that you have ever done or created is somehow lost, doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
What 3 truths would you want to leave that you would be remembered for?
Oh, 3 truths I'd want to be remembered for.
Or lessons, if you will. 3 lessons, if you will. Like that.
Okay. Number 1, quite simply, live for today. I know it's really cheesy, but do what you want to do. Say what you want to say. Feel how you want to feel. Because with this condition, you're going to have good days and bad days, and you really have to seize the good days. Secondly, not to judge people by their covers. You don't know what's going on in their head, and you don't know what's going on with them physically. So, don't judge a book by its cover. And I don't know, to be remembered by, I'll probably have a statue of me with my ostomy, with me pointing at it and being like, this is my shit bag, or something stupid like that. Just to be like, now it's out there, we can talk about it. So there you go. Something silly like that. Or, my mates would say the stupid phrases that you come out with all the time, like bits and bobs, running around, all this sort of stuff. You'd be remembered for coming up with absolute rubbish half the time and probably talking shit. So yeah, there you go.
It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you, and thank you so much for accepting. I'm literally at the start of my journey, so it's a real honor to actually get to speak to you,
mate. It's exactly the same. It's a very humbling experience to openly chat with you about this, and someone that's, I'll be honest, quite actively spoken to me about stuff before. And I'm very humbled that you're a big fan of my work, because I just think I'm running around just talking absolute rubbish. So I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Anytime you want me to come on again, then let me know. You might find that I have better headphones, or somewhere else to actually go, probably a better internet connection, not to just stand awkwardly in my mate's room. So but good luck with everything, obviously with your family and everything like that, matey, at the moment. So I hope all of that is going well for you.
No, it's great, and I look forward to seeing the story as it unfolds, as you approach Christmas and get to eat all of your goodness. Hey guys, I really enjoyed that episode, and I'm sure you agree. Ant is an exceptionally funny guy, and he's always able to turn that adversity into humour. I really thought that his 3 truths were really pertinent to people with chronic disease, making sure that we do appreciate the good times in our lives, and because we're always going to be coming back around with chronic disease into those tough times, and being able to take today for what it is and keep going forwards. I think it's such an important truth for us to live by. I just want to express my thanks to Ant for just coming on the show. And it's something that this channel is all about. We're trying to reach out to as many people as possible just to share your story, and hopefully we'll make our disease a little bit less of a taboo, a little bit less of a stigma around IBD and around having an ostomy, and hopefully by doing this we'll actually make what we have, our disease and our situations with our body, a little bit more of a mainstream discussion. So if you found that this episode's moved you in any way, or you've got any thoughts or questions, just leave us a comment down below. I'll certainly be responding to you, and Ant will possibly be able to respond as well. You can find us all on Facebook and Instagram, and just reach out. We are here to try and give people advice if they need it, and hopefully just to really learn from our experiences as people. So again, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be uploading regularly with more great inspirational guys from the IBD and chronic disease community sharing their stories. Like the video 2019 style, and hit that little bell icon when you subscribe. That way you'll get a little alert, like a little buzz in your pocket whenever we upload our latest video, and that way you'll be able to keep abreast of all the different things that we're bringing to the channel. So hopefully I'll see you on the next episode.